Guys, this is going to be a review of slope. And what I have here is a triangle to kind of re-emphasize slope. This is a stick figure that I call Kyle. Kyle helps us determine what our slopes of our lines are. And on this one, I think of Kyle's bank account going up, and we consider that positive. He is getting money. And then we go over here, and what's going on with Kyle's bank account? It is going down, and he is sad, and that is negative. And we got our little frowny face. Then right down here at the bottom, we have Kyle, and he's just going back and forth, and he is bored. There ain't nothing going on. That is a zero slope, okay? And the equation of a zero slope is y equals a number, okay? So just want to go over that one with you. And then there's the last one. Kyle comes running in from the left because we read our graphs from left to right. And he falls on this slope and he trips and he dies. That is no slope we want any part of. That is undefined. Okay, so Kyle's dead. We don't want to kill Kyle. Remember that. That is no fun. And those are x equals a number. They are straight vertical lines that cross your x-axis. Okay, so let's go on ahead and let's go on and do some of our problems. I'm going to go on ahead and extend the screen a little bit larger so you guys can see it. All right. So right here we have the graph, and a couple of things that I'd like to point out to you guys on a graph is we talked about when we plot points that I always want y'all to label the x comma y with the sideways, then up and down, okay? The other thing, my arrow came off there, is for slope. The reason is because slope, you might notice, is opposite. It is up and down, then sideways. So I always want y'all to make a note of that. The other thing that we happen to call slope is rise over run. And the big one that we hear all the time is rate of change. It is a constant rate of change. That's the reason it makes a straight line. So Kyle always comes running in from the left over here. And when I look for 2 points, notice there's not 2 points labeled here, so we have to pick them. I tend to look on the y-axis because that's the y-intercept, and I notice that there's a point right here. So then I go to the right because Kyle comes in left to right and try and find another point, which I see right there. And then in slope, I describe how do I get from this point to this point. Kyle goes up 1, 2, 3, which is a positive, and he goes right, which is also a positive. Whoops, 2. Sorry, goes right 2. So my slope would be 3 over 2. You don't need to put the arrows on it when it's like this because you're just describing how he's moving and what he's doing. But I always recommend you go up or down, then to the right. There will be times that you can't, but that is the, if we do it all the same way every time, it makes it a little bit clearer. So then we're going to go down here and we have a table. I have some of the other explanations of slope. It is the change in y over the change in x, or delta y over delta x, which we see more common in science. I'm going to change my pen color for you guys. Okay, so since y is on top in slope, when I am doing slope from a table or 2 points, I always do this side first because it is the y value and it goes on top. And I look at it and I say, how do I get from 0 to 10? I add 10. How do I get from 10 to 20? I add 10. I add 10. So that's constant right there. Sometimes these might be different, but when you do the equivalent over here, they'll all reduce to the same thing. How do I get from 0 to 2? I add 2. I add 2. I add 2. So my slope is 10 over 2. This can be reduced to 5 over 1, which means we go up 5 over 1. Every whole number is over a 1. So if we were to graph it, that is how, quote unquote, Kyle moves. We're going to skip the equation for now. We're going to go down and do a couple of examples of the different ways that you might see slope and that you will see slope on the accompanying worksheets that we're going to be doing. All right, so right here, and what I would like to do first are number 2 and 3, which are the graphs and where we actually see it on the graphs. So Kyle comes running in from the left, and as I told you, I always look for a point on the y-axis. I don't see one here. So I'm going to still go to the right because I read from left to right. I'm going to go to the right again, and that looks close, but you can still see the point there. It goes to this one. So I now need to describe how Kyle gets from the first point to the second point. Kyle goes up 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a positive 4. And he goes over 1, 2, 3. So he goes up 4 over 3. And that would be the slope. I know a lot of this is review for you guys, and a lot of you are aware of how to do it and familiar with it, but I feel like we need to cover those basics and those reviews before we go back and start doing the intense stuff. So on number 3, Kyle comes running in from the left over here. There he is, really long arms. And I look for an exact point. I don't see one here, so I'm going to go to the left. I see one there. And I happen to see one right back over here. That one kind of stood out to me. It's okay if you see the one down here. Either way, these are constant. They're going to give us the same slope no matter what 2 points you count from, even if you have to reduce your fraction. So Kyle comes running in from here, and I'm going to describe how he gets from this point to this point. Okay, Kyle goes down 1, 2, 3. Down 3 would be a negative. Then he goes to the right 2. If you were to go up and to the left, that would change it. That would be a positive and a negative. I always like to do it the same way so it stays consistent personally, but if you have a comfort, that's okay. Just always make sure you do your rise over your run. So now we're going to come over here and we are going to do the slope formula. Over here listed, I have the slope formula on the right, and I'm going to show y'all how to use it. The first thing you always need to do when you're using slope formula is actually label your points. X of 1, y sub 1, x of 2, y sub 2. And the numbers mean nothing but a name. They're just naming the points so we know where to plug them in the formula. It also doesn't matter which one you name which, okay? So you're going to go plug them into the formula. Y sub 2 is negative 10, and then I'm going to write a minus before I look at anything else, because there's a minus right here in the formula. Then I'm going to go back up to it, and my colors disappeared. Sorry. And then I'm going to do my minus negative 4. So right here, you can already see where we see some issues, and we tend to have a couple of mess ups, is that negative that's from the, sorry, that negative that is from the, oh my goodness. Oh, there we go. That negative that is from the formula and the negative, it just tends to cause a lot of issues. There's a lot of negatives, and we already kind of mess up on our negatives enough. So it is a little overwhelming. So then we are going to do negative 12. We're doing x of 2, negative 12 minus. Where does the minus come from? The minus comes from the formula right here. Okay. Then I'm going to look at my first point right there. And then I'm going to look at my negative 20. So there's a lot of negatives going on here, and I think that's a lot. So I'm going to show you the way I prefer next. So now we're going to go on here and we're going to say, all right, let's go ahead and simplify this. Negative is a positive. Negative 10 plus 4, or the way I prefer to do it is put the positive first and do 4 minus 10 is negative 6. This changes to a positive. Negative 12 plus 20, or 20 minus 12 is 8. And that reduces to negative 3 over 4. How does that mean Kyle would move on the graph? He would go down 3 over 4. And there is your slope. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you all the way that I actually kind of prefer to do it in a table or in a T-chart. So what you're basically doing is you're creating a table with the 2 points that you've been given. You're just creating an XY table. So I'm going to put my first point in here. Negative 20 is X, negative 4 is Y. You plug them in horizontally. So please make sure you notice that you're putting them in the correct columns. minus 4. So now let's solve. How do we get from negative 4 to negative 10? I know negative 4, we're going to go down. We actually go down 6. Now, how do I get from negative 20 to negative 12? Sometimes it's tough to picture it, so I like to show the kids. Here's negative 20. Here's negative 12. You actually go up 8. So sometimes it helps if you picture it in a vertical line and how it's moving on that number line. So this actually gives you, if you notice, the exact same answer when you reduce. Most of my answer keys and the way I teach it is in the T-chart. It's less negatives, and it's just less room for error when you have that formula. I don't care which way you do it. You do whatever way helps you and whichever way you solve it, which is best for you, and I will totally support it and help you. Okay, this means Kyle goes down 3 and over 4. Thank you.